Hello, everybody. Shabbat Shalom to each and every one of you. Welcome back again to this weekly reading, this Saturday podcast. Welcome once again, and I thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for coming back here every week as we go through the trails of the weekly reading. And here, I just hope that all of you had a wonderful holidays wherever you are in this world. And I hope that this week's parasha will also allow you to think about your family status, about your life, and even about the things that you have went through your life. So this weekly parasha is about Vayigash, which means and he drew near, and you can find it on the chapters written in the description box below. So let's begin. All right. So before I begin in this topic, I just want to encourage you, if you have a story that you want to share, I would be gladly to read it. Or if you want an open or live interview, sure, just send your message down below. It is very interesting to have another story to be shown here. Since I have been doing this on my other channel before, this time we're just gonna be focusing on the strength and testimonies of other people. And however your life had turned, if you're a believer or non-believer, I still welcome you to share your story that will inspire many people. Right. So we're just gonna have to start. And I hope that you will learn something from this. So we're gonna learn about the weekly parasha and the 22-year-long contest between Joseph and his brothers is now approaching its climax. So Judah approaches Joseph, whom he knows only as Zapenat Paaneach, right? So that is Joseph's name in Egypt. That's what he received through the Pharaoh. So he is a viceroy of Egypt to plead, argue, and threaten to the release of Benjamin. So the viceroy's magic goblet had been discovered in Benjamin's sack. He shall be my slave, declared the Egyptian ruler in the closing verse of last week's parasha. And you go up in peace to your father. But the brothers won't go in peace. Judah, their spokesman and leader, and the one who assumed personal responsibilities to Jacob for Benjamin's safe return, pleads, "How shall I go up to my father if the boy is not with me?" Benjamin is the only surviving child of our father's most beloved wife. So his older brother, having disappeared many years ago, our father's very life is bound up with Benjamin's life. When he sees that the boy is not with us, he will die, and your servants will bring down the white head of your servant, our father, with sorrow to the grave. So in this reading, we discover how Judah becomes soft in his heart, and how he actually stood up or realized what is happening to his father due to the loss of Joseph. So he says, "I beg you," concludes Judah, "let your servant remain instead of the boy as a slave to my lord, and let the boy go up with his brothers, lest I see the evil that shall befall my father." So in this reading that you just heard from me, Joseph could not restrain himself before all those who stood to him, and he cried, "Order every man to leave me." So no man stood with him while Joseph made himself known to his brothers. By the way, before I say anything else, it's good to understand the life of Joseph here and the life of his brothers. Okay, it's important to understand growing up in different kinds of circumstances, whereas they are sort of two families, right? Because two women were involved in them. Now we're just gonna get back to the reading. So Joseph, because he could not contain his emotions, he told his servants to leave him, and he wept, and he introduced himself to his brothers. He wept aloud, and Egypt heard, and the household of Pharaoh heard. Joseph said to his brothers, "I am Joseph. Is my father still alive?" His brothers could not answer him, for they were terrified before him. Joseph said to his brothers, "Come near to me, please." And they came near. He said, "I am Joseph, your brother, whom you sold into Egypt." So the brothers are beside themselves with shame and remorse, and it is Joseph who comforts them. It was not you who sent me here," he says to them, "but God. It has all been ordained from above because you sold me into slavery. We will all be saved from the hunger which has stricken the entire region these last 2 years, and which is destined to continue for another 5. So he said, "Hasten up, go up to your father and say to him, 'Thus says your son Joseph, God has made me Lord of all Egypt. Come down to me. Do not delay, and you shall be near me, and there I will sustain you.'" So Pharaoh sends wagons to bring Jacob and his entire family to Egypt, and declares, "The bounty of the entire land of Egypt is yours." So what are we going to learn from here? Imagine yourself growing up in a family, whereas you know that your mother is not loved, and that your father would prefer the other one because he loved her most. Now, due to the things that we have just read about Joseph standing in front of his brothers, imagine all the problems that he caused them. First accusing them being a spies, and then accusing them of stealing, and then asking them to go back and pick up their brother. I mean, the youngest one, Benjamin, and then in the end telling them to accusing Benjamin to be the one stealing the goblet, and then in the end telling them that he will be my slave. What is happening here, and what's going on now, and what are you going to do? So of all of these kinds of circumstances, we have to probably think, what kind of emotions are these brothers actually feeling when suddenly Joseph sent out all of his servants and shut the door and then tell them, "I'm Joseph." I could imagine that they probably were shocked, and then also they were probably thinking that, if you are our brother, why then you did not tell us that from the beginning, right? It would be easier. But the thing is, Joseph is more smarter than that. I believe that he wanted to see if there's remorse, he wanted to see if his brothers had changed. He wanted to see, are they going to do the same thing like they did to him? Will they do that to Benjamin? Since he and Benjamin is the beloved children from the beloved wife, what will his brothers do? So, since Judah was one of the brothers who did something to him from the past, did he change? Of course he did. We can see that from the words that we read a while ago, that he says that, let me be in that place instead of Benjamin. Otherwise, our father will die and we will cause him a long grief, since he's been grieving for his long lost son, Joseph. Now, what shall I do if I don't bring my brother with me? Right? So that's why Joseph cannot hold himself. He cannot restrain his emotions anymore. He cried. And that's where he introduced himself to his brothers. Now we're gonna go to the divine promise. So now, since Joseph introduced himself to his brothers, and the Pharaoh allowed him to help and support his family. So the Pharaoh sends wagon to bring back Jacob and his entire family, right? And Joseph even sends a message to his brothers to tell the father that it is Joseph, your son, that wants you to come here, come draw near me, he says here. And this means that come and let's spend time together, because we've lost many years. Now I am here. And he says here, I will sustain you. So from here, it also means that it's not just the word humble here. It means here that Joseph also considers the old age of his father, and that he want to make amends of the years that had been lost. So they went up out of Egypt and came to the land of Canaan, to Jacob their father, and told him, saying, Joseph is still alive, and he is a governor over all the land of Egypt. So his heart fainted, for he did not believe them. They told him all the words of Joseph, which he had said to them. And when he saw the wagons which Joseph had sent to carry him, the spirit of Jacob, their father, revived. Israel said, it is enough. Joseph, my son, is still alive. I will go and see him before I die. So from here, we can see that there is something going on spiritually when we lose our loved ones, right? There are probably many people who don't understand the emotional impact when a person loses someone very, very close to them, or someone they truly, truly love. Some people would probably think that that person have been dead for many years, and you are still grieving for that person. It's like 10 years ago, something like that. But here we can see a clear impact of what happened to Jacob when he thought that Joseph had been dead for many years. He grieved. He grieved many, many years. That's why he became so protective to Benjamin. Now, imagine when his sons come to him and said, "Hey, father, Joseph is actually alive," right? First, they were the ones who reported to him that he was dead or he was gone. So he grieved from that day. And then suddenly, from nowhere, they would come back and say, Joseph is still alive. So he did not believe them. His heart fainted. He was like, what's going on with my children? Are they gonna come again with lies? You know? So now, so that they would believe, Joseph saw the wagons. Remember, Joseph is blind. How can he see the wagon? Of course, he could understand the presence of the wagons around him. And probably he's not fully blind. He's not fully blind. And then we can see that the spirit of Jacob was revived. So these are the effects that that we can understand when we lose someone that we truly loved and that are attached into our soul. We can give as an example is if we lost our parents or our partners. If you have someone that you lost so truly near to you, you will feel that your spirit is not actually dead, but it's how can I say, it's it's lost. It feels lost, or it feels like your spirit is not alive. It's in a sleeping mode. It's in a stumble mode. It's in a low energy. It's in a low status. But since he saw the wagons and then believed the words that his sons had told him from Joseph, he saw a hope. That's why his spirit was revived, because there's a hope. There's a hope, and it awakened his senses that, my son is alive after all these years. After all these years. So he said, it is enough. You see, so there is a sort of decision from our side whenever we are grieving for someone, and then we find the truth at the end that there should be no sense of grumbling. Once we learn the truth, we should not communicate with all the garbage or with all the tragedies that happen, but instead we say, it is enough. This is the future. This is the truth that I know now. So what did he do? He said, this is enough. Joseph, my son, is still alive. I will go and see him before I die. Right? So on the way to Egypt, at the oasis of Be'er Sheva, God appears to Jacob. I am the Lord, the God of your father. Fear not to go down to Egypt, for I will make of you a great nation. I will go down with you into Egypt, and I will also surely bring you up again. So there was a promise here. Now, what happened here is that there's a tremendous change that happens. I will tell you that there were 70 souls that had entered Goshen in Egypt. When they came there were 70 souls, and these are all the family of Jacob and all his children and their wives and his grandchildren. So Jacob and his sons, it was Reuben, he got his 4 children, and then Simeon, he got 6 children, the son of the Canaanite, and then the sons of Levi, the sons of Judah, the sons of Issachar, of Zebulun, and then Jacob's daughter Dinah, and then the sons of God, Asher. To Joseph in the land of Egypt were born Manasseh and Ephraim. So if you notice how these 70 souls were written in the scriptures, it started with Reuben. It goes along with the coordination of the firstborn to the last, right? And then Benjamin. You see, there is the rank or the status of every children of Jacob. And Joseph had 2 children, and Benjamin have, I think, 10. He have 10. and Dan have Oshim, right? So now we're gonna go on to the Jews in Egypt. Jacob sends Judah ahead to Egypt to show the way before him. So Joseph harnessed his chariot and went up to meet Israel, his father, to Goshen. He fell on his neck and wept on his neck a good while. Israel said to Joseph, "Now I can die, since I have seen your face, because you are still alive." So what happens here is that there's also a change here when the scripture is referring to the children. The scriptures refers to Jacob as Jacob, but when they transform to when they entered Egypt, the scriptures says Israel, right? So here I think we can have an understanding that there are differences between our spiritual and our physical. In the spiritual, we have the sense of transformation, a large transformation. In the physical, it seems the same. It seems we are weak. It looks like the toil and turmoil of this life had crushed us. But the spiritual life that we have can actually be seen in the transformation of our lives, right? So the physical can be affected by the spiritual. So now Pharaoh's grants Jacob's family the country of Goshen, a place suitable for their vocation as shepherds. Joseph presents his father and brothers to Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said to Jacob, "How many are the years of your life?" So Pharaoh becomes interested in how old is Jacob. And Jacob speaks a lot of things here. He says, "The days of the years of my sojournings are 130 years. Few and evil have been the days of the years of my life." So if you look at this text, if you read it by yourself, you can see that there's a kind of good conversation between Pharaoh and Jacob. There must probably be a wonderful conversation between them because Jacob, you know that in the traditions of Egypt before, the Egyptians should not have any contact at all with the Hebrews, right? Or with the other countries, only them. They would have, only the Egyptians would have to talk. But in this, you can see that they broke the barrier between their differences. They talked, they sat and talked, because if you look at how it was written, Jacob is telling the Pharaoh that I am this age and there's a lot of things happen in my years. And these sojournings or this journey that I have, there's a lot of things that happen. Right? So now, and then at the end here, Jacob blessed Pharaoh. He blessed him. So there's a tremendous change happening here. Why would he bless him, All right. It says here that he blessed him that the Nile should rise at his feet and water the land, right? Now, Joseph gathers the wealth of Egypt and the surrounding countries as all the money and valuable are expended in the purchase of food during the famine. Joseph then nationalizes all the land in Egypt, transferring its population and decreeing that a fifth of its produce must be given to Pharaoh in return for its use. Only the priests are exempted from this tax. So from here, you can also see that Joseph actually shown an influence in his surrounding. Therefore, I believe that if there are leaders in our surroundings who are believers, one example that I can actually share you is if you know Lord Jonathan Sachs. He is one of the well-known Jewish rabbi in the House of the Royals in England. If you search his name on the internet, you will probably know what I'm talking about. He had shared a lot of fundamental ideas and fundamental things about life. He had influenced many lives, including me, of course. And here you can see that Joseph had actually shared his ideas when it comes to how the produce would be paid to the Pharaoh and what's the use of it. Right here in this text, we cannot see how they implied these kinds of rules. And this is the beginning of the life of the Hebrews until to the life of Moses. So Israel dwelt in the land of Egypt, in the country of Goshen. They took possession of it and grew and multiplied exceedingly. So here we can also have an understanding of what kind of life Joseph had. He did not actually had a bad attitude towards his brothers. And when he say from the beginning that they were spies, he was actually talking about how they had overlooked at him. Because you see, it's also a spy when you look at or envy others' lives. For example, what did they do to him? Oh, here's the dreamer, or oh, he's the favorite child, right? So they have been watching his every step of life. They have been watching his every move, and that there's the time that they said to him that so you're always reporting to our father and you are the favorite son, right? So that's why Joseph told them that they were spies. He was not meaning that they were the spies of the land of Egypt, since what can they spy the land of Egypt at that time when Canaan was also one of the land that had been stricken by the famine, right? And then stealing. Why would Joseph accuse them of stealing? Why would he plot these things? One of the things that I noticed is that they have stolen the years of his life, right? Since they sold him, so they stole him his time with his father. They stole him many things, but we've never read here how Joseph grieved, right? Or how he argumented with his brother. We never read that. But what he did was that the punishment that he did to them was acceptable to God because he was testing his brothers if they are still acting the same. Have they grown a bit? Have they matured a bit? Have they changed their hearts? Are they going to do the same thing? Is his younger brother, because when he heard that there is a Benjamin from his mother, when he heard that, I still have one original brother from my mother, you know, thinking about this, he have to, he became a little bit of protective and test, will they ever gonna betray him too, right? Now, we're gonna go on the side of his brothers. Imagine, as I've said a while ago, imagine yourself living in a family whereas you always feel that you are rejected or unloved. There will always be in this life someone who are not a favorite in the family. And that is the reality of life. the way you would handle it is the best solution that will tremendously change your life, just like Judah, just like Reuben. Some of the children of Jacob or Israel actually had even slept with the concubine of his father, right? So these are the results of the envy of or due to the thoughts and emotions that they thought that they are not loved and so on, since their mother is not loved, so they had a feeling that they have to do something, right, to hurt their father back. And it's the same with our lives. How we react towards it will actually determine the course of our lives and the course of our mindset. So I want you to observe around you that in this life, the only thing you have to consider to be fair at is when you judge. Judgment, for example, when you treat other people that you are not cheating on other people, right? When it comes to the emotions and relationship, it will always be the reality that someone will always be rejected. It's just like in a race or in studies. Not everyone finishes it. Some actually loses. In a race, it's the same, or there's only be one winner. But it doesn't mean that if you're the winner, it doesn't mean that you are above everyone else. This is the difference of Joseph. Because although he went through different things in his life, he did not felt that he is above his brothers. He even took them, but he tested them. And it's normal to do that. It's normal to test them to see if the people or the persons who once had done something to you, did they change? You know, the grumbling situation shouldn't be there. And if the grumbling situation would be there in the status or in the position of Joseph, probably he would be like all of us now who's feeling so depressed and so feeling pity on ourselves. But he didn't. He used it. Probably I know, in my own opinion, that Joseph probably had those kinds of feelings where as he felt disappointed at times, but he used his circumstances and situations by the help of God to actually become a blessing to others instead. So I want to encourage you to be aware of what you're doing in life and be aware of your thoughts, be aware of the circumstances that happened to you, and also to not grumble from the past, right? And also to consider the people around you, consider your beloved ones, that even though they have done things to you, you shouldn't think of them as evil unless they did something unlawful to you. And since what happened to Joseph is actually not permissible, but God allowed it and permitted it in a way whereas he became the fulfillment in a dream, right? So that is the message for today. And I hope that each and every one of you actually had learned a little bit of this part. And next week, we're going to learn about Vayechi. Okay? Vayechi. So now, we know already that it was Judah's idea to sell Joseph into slavery. And therefore, he was later be willing to become a slave in exchange for Benjamin's freedom. right? So my question is that how did his speech to Joseph reveal that his heart had changed, especially in relation to his father's love for Rachel and her children? And this is the thing that we saw a while ago, that please do not take my brother now because my father is so old. Okay, I want you to have this kind of question. And then the other question is that Joseph forgave his brothers, but not without first testing them, right? In Jewish tradition states that we are under no obligation to forgive another person until the person recognizes their fault. Do you think Joseph was justified testing or deceiving his brothers? And if you think one more time, what was the result? Did he see the remorse? Did he see the reasoning of Judah when he took Benjamin? So in Jewish tradition says that the brothers never told Jacob that they sold Joseph into slavery, and that Jacob simply thought Joseph had gotten lost and then captured by the Ishmaelites. Are there times when it is better to keep silent about a wrongdoing? Why didn't the brothers confess their sin to Jacob? Why? And if you can discuss this with your group or with your friends within your prayer group, that would be interesting, right? I probably think that if Jacob would have known that his son is alive, he wouldn't grieve so long. And what will happen is that he would be so mad at his children already, right? But I would leave that thoughts to you. So Jewish tradition also states that Joseph never told Jacob what his brothers did to him. And what is Lashon Hara? And why is it considered such a terrible sin? So if we remember Lashon Hara, that is gossip. Since it is true that he was sold, it is still Lashon Hara to cause another grief or to intend arouse of anger to his father towards his other brothers. And that is Lashon Hara. That's why even if we hear some things from other people which are probably half truth or half lie, it's not our responsibility to transfer that to another person, to arouse them to anger or to arouse them to do something. Because what will happen there is that you will also be guilty in the sight of God. That is Leshon Hara. That's why even if it was true what happened, Joseph kept silent and his brothers kept silent. And the next question is since the Egyptians worshipped animals, including sheep, Joseph identified his family as shepherds and settled them in the land of Goshen, away from Egyptian cultures and its influences. How important is the idea of separation from worldly culture to you in your relationship with God? I believe that it's kind of boring to think about this kind of life, whereas you will separate yourself from everybody. For example, everybody celebrates Christmas, and it happens so that you don't celebrate that. Is it important to for you to separate yourself, right? So now the last question is, how is Joseph a picture of Yeshua, the Messiah? All right, so now we are at the end of this streaming, and I hope that you have learned a lot. So before I end, I'm gonna share you this song. lost without a cause. After giving it my all, winter storms darken my sun. After all that I've been through, who on earth can I turn to? I look to you. I look to you. After all my strength is gone, in you I can be strong. I look to you. I look to you. And when melodies are gone, in you I hear a song. I look to you. About to lose my breath, there's no more fighting left, sinking to rise no more, searching for that open door, and every road I've taken looks for my regret. And I don't know what I'm gonna make it. Nothing to do but lift my head up to you. After all my strength is gone, in you I can be strong. I look to you. I look to you. And when melodies are gone, in you I hear a song. I look to you. When the levees are broken, my walls are cold, crumbling down on me. When the rain is falling, defeat is calling, I need you to set me free. Take me far away from the battle. I need you to shine on me. I look to you. Oh, after all my strength is gone, in you I can be strong. I look to you. I look to you. Yeah. And when melodies are gone, in you I hear a song. I look to you. I look to you. And that's the song from Sela. They are reconstructed by Sela, but originally from Whitney Houston. I look to you. So that's the message for today. And thank you so much. Next week we will have Vayigash, and I hope to see you all again. God bless you, everyone, and see you next week.